Thanks, James. Thanks very much for coming on to Pro Talk. One day there'll be like a neon sign, Joe Rogan, you know what I mean? Like really kicking off. But yeah, the point of this was to just have like an informal chat, really, podcast style. But hopefully there'll be snippets that be of value to new people starting out in photography, and maybe we can share a bit of our wisdom or whatever on how we got to where we are, or the bumps in the road and stuff like that. So that was the idea of it. So we'll just whiz through some questions. We probably some might repeat a little bit, or we might go off topic and we can cut bits out. So
sounds good.
Whatever it's. But you're all right. You're feeling good. You're
feeling good, mate. Yeah, a little bit. I've been dodging time zones the last couple of weeks. Okay. Yeah, I did Phoenix, and then straight on the back end, I just got back from Abu Dhabi. So I kind of went that way and that way. And
so what was that? What was that shooting?
Phoenix was High Rocks for the major out there, which was really cool. Great stadium.
So is that like elite level?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So that's the pro events, the E15.
Okay.
And we're in the Cardinals Stadium, so it was in an NFL stadium.
Oh, wow.
Massive space, really cool.
They fill up quite a lot for...
No, this is the whole thing. It was a cool space when you're looking at it, and then when, the cool thing about High Rocks, and what I've noticed is when we do get the crowds involved, and you can see through people's heads and you get the sort of audience feel about it all. Yeah. Unfortunately, in the NFL stadium, it's so massive.
A bit gappy, yeah.
We sort of missed that. I mean, we had people on the floor, but we didn't have people in the stands. So it kind of looked a bit strange if it's a wide shot.
Yeah, because you're almost conditioned to think stadium rammed and...
Exactly, yeah.
Do they not like try and squeeze them into one area? So?
Well, I think when you got these like, you've run at High Rocks before, right?
I haven't been to one, but I've just done the training and stuff,
When you got like London Olympia or places like that, it sort of feels a lot more condensed, and you get a lot more sort of sound resonating around as well, and it feels like you're in a rave when you're working there, for sure. But in the stadium, it was a lot different. So it was cool. It was great to be in there. It was something new. Yeah. And I'm sure, they've got a couple other places this season that are going to be in stadiums. And hopefully it's a bit more.
Okay. And do you cover basically the whole event, or are you focused on specific athletes? You're not following athletes, you're doing it for the...
Well, up until, it's recently changed for me. Last season, I was just in the broadcast team. Okay. So I'd sort of show up, we'd get the truck ready, get cameras on, do our fax checks, and then go live. But now I've sort of switched over into the VT team as well. So doing a lot of pre-shooting with the athletes. Yeah. Which has been really cool.
Oh, nice. That feels quite good, no? When you get some dedicated time.
Yeah, and you also get to meet them sort of, you get to know the athletes a little bit more and their personalities, which is really cool. And our task is to really bring those out into VTs for the live show, to really show people that, hey, they're not just these people that can run a High Rocks in 54 minutes. They're actually pretty cool.
Personalities and whatever,
Yeah, so that was that event, and that's been going, for me personally, I'm in my second season now with High Rocks, working for a company called Inspo Hub. Okay. So they bring me in to do that. And then, Phoenix was great event, but I came back down to Southbourne for a day, and then I was straight out to Abu Dhabi for the Crucible, which is a newer event, a bit more CrossFit style. Okay. But again, the same crew.
Can they call it CrossFit, or do they give it a different name, or because it's?
I think that's why they call it
trademarks and stuff.
It's the CrossFit movements. Like dips, push press, strict press. Yeah. But they threw in a shuttle run and also a swim. So it was a bit different. Yeah.
That's interesting. Because that's how we know each other, from the CrossFit gym in South.
Yeah, exactly. So it's interesting when you're watching these huge guys trying to swim. So they're just these big, massive masses where, you fancy it when you see them doing that. So, I can swim.
So has that always been your? Well, we'll see. We'll get there. So, when you look back, what moment started this journey in photography? So, how did you kind of get into photography and video, whatever it was?
Yeah, I think I was always interested in photography in some sense. Okay. As a youngster growing up, but I originally studied in graphic design.
Okay.
And out of leaving uni, I had a great job with Gastro and Taboo windsurfing,
Right.
so as a graphic designer for their boards and sales.
Really?
So
Okay.
as a windsurfer,
Yeah,
that was
'cause
my
that's-
dream job. I was like,
Wow.
wow, God, talk to me. And
So you started windsurfing like ages quite young.
yeah, I used it as a cross training sport for sailing.
Because I'm gutted, because I mean, I've always been into sport, but I've only started about 5-6 years ago, and that's why I kind of left London and moved back down to the coast where we are now. And so you've got a good bit of background.
Yeah, it's funny because I feel like I learnt the hard way back when it was slalom boards and
because
the
they were longer
booms
and
you had to
thinner.
and tie-on booms as well.
Oh, really?
So
you didn't have the UJ that you slot in?
No, that was the thing, man. We had to tie on our booms and it would last all of like 10 minutes before the thing was lifting up and down. And so I felt like back in the day, like in the, I don't know, when did I learn? Early 90s, mid 90s, like I was learning the hard way.
Yeah.
Like my little Toyota Corolla with the board and the mast sticking out the front of it, driving down to the beach in New Zealand. But, it wasn't until later on that I was working for a windsurfing club in Menorca on a season. And I saw all these guys coming out and working for those, as dinghy sailors and dinghy instructors or windsurfing instructors, and how good they got on new kit.
Yeah.
Just by doing their lunch times, I'm going to go for a windsurf, and how good they got so fast.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, they were coming into the end of the season doing like calf jibes and stuff, and I was like,
wow,
that took me ages to get there.
Yeah, I'm only just getting jibes in. I mean, tacking's all right, but the jibes.
I tell you what, jibes, I was always told, and actually I was told by a very famous windsurfer that the calf jibe is going to be the thing that you work on forever.
Oh, so you got the life thing.
Yeah. Bjorn Dunkerberg told me that.
Okay, nice. Nice to have that as
the Terminator himself.
Okay, cool. So that was what I was going to say. So you grew into the graphic design, and then you were in the kind of windsurfing, sailing world, and then that kind of drew you into the photography side. Because I mean, graphic design, I've absolutely I've always been
I love it
obsessed with
too.
it. Not trained in it, but just like fonts and logos. And
absolutely. Yeah, and I think
you're visually focused with stuff like that. Yeah,
absolutely. I love looking through design annuals. I love just seeing stuff, and especially
like
websites.
nerdy stuff. Yeah.
Oh god, yeah, and looking at like all this stuff. Just kerning, leading, things like that.
Yeah.
You see a typeface, you're like, oh god, that's nice.
Yeah,
I love geeking out on that stuff. It's still a passion of mine, graphic design, and I still like dabbling, but I guess the Gastro and Taboo thing was great, and it lasted 3 years, but then I sort of went through my first redundancy. And so for me as a young professional, that was kind of like, I remember feeling like, it was the first time like, oh God, this is the real world.
Yeah.
And after that, I think I got to the age, I was 25 in New Zealand, and I was talking to a friend of mine who was a yacht racer as well. And we all sort of stood on the beach one day thinking, I just lost my job and I'd gone back to dinghy teaching dinghies. And we sort of thought, God, we could do this anywhere in the world. Like, why are we staying in New Zealand?
Yeah.
And so, I ended up going out. My first season was in Turkey for
nice.
Sunsail.
Okay. Yeah, I've been out there on a like a workshop. It's quite nice. Yeah.
And so that was the start of my summer winter season life.
Okay.
And how I found myself leaving graphic design and getting into video was through the boom of GoPro.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and so I found the love of basically just recording me and my friends being, silly, goofing off on seasons. Yeah. And winter seasons we'd go through the park and record each other snowboarding, skiing, doing silly tricks on big jumps.
Yeah. So the whole action camera.
Yeah.
And
I sort of, I guess after that, it wasn't until I sort of quit the season life and I'd made a few videos and I came back to the UK and I started living in Plymouth.
Oh, right. Perfect. Yeah.
And I started back into graphic design.
Okay.
And the love just wasn't there. And I felt like I was really grinding really hard. And I didn't really see myself. I wasn't really making a living. I was having to work in a water sports shop part-time as well, which I'm very grateful for.
It's mad, isn't it? Like trying to cut your teeth in something and you're just kind of like, because for somebody else, it could be perfect. I see musicians like like through London, like humping their like equipment around, and you think, bloody hell, I'd never do that. How would you get anywhere?
No, exactly.
But then you saw that with graphic design and moved more into the photography world.
Yeah.
But it's just, we're convinced in our head that it's easier or going to be better, but how do we know? You just don't.
I think it was like, for me, the decision to move away from graphic design or seeking out graphic design as my source of income. Because I feel like I've always been freelance as well. I never worked for a company until very late in my career, which is only a few years ago.
Because that's quite a scary thing to do. Like I started off, I finished my degree in London and then was like, it got me nothing. I was like, shit, I've still got to go and find a job. Worked at Metro Imaging, like processing film and stuff. So that was a bit regular. But then I was like, this isn't getting, I need to work in a studio, but then you kind of almost got to go. And then I moved to Spain and got into a studio and was still on not very good money, but then you're interacting with other photographers. Yeah. But then I realized I had to go on my own. Yeah. And then that's the scary bit. You're like, oh, I'm freelance, and it's just much more risk.
Yeah.
It's very
the risk is there for sure. And I think for anybody starting out, all you need is a couple of gigs to get you sort of started. And
but kind of regular.
Semi-regular, I think. Okay. If you can do a part-time job on the side like I did, which was very flexible, working for Reactive Water Sports. I'm giving them a shout out because Dave really helped me sort of get into my career. Okay. He allowed me to sort of go away and do these jobs.
I think that's really key to, you work a bit and you're thinking in the back of your head, right, I'm going to go and shoot this, and then you come back and you're back and forth. You need that, something just the basics to keep the money coming in.
Sure, yeah. And I was doing stuff for him as well as practice. So it was scary at the start, but at the same time, I think for me, I fell back into my passion for windsurfing and water sports. So I'd grown up in windsurfing and water sports, and I used that as a source for my income as well. So I had that passion, that knowledge already. Okay. And I just applied it to video. Yeah, perfect. And having a knowledge of that industry through selling it, doing it myself. Yeah, really helps you understand when you're building a video, building something like that. Yeah, how you need to pitch it, how you need to film it, what people actually, the language we speak as windsurfers, as water sports, as yacht racers.
Brilliant. So that's quite key, isn't it? That you've got like some sort of passion that links you into the photography you tack onto or video onto the back of that, as opposed to just going off and doing random photography, because what's going to steer you, what's going to guide you? So if it's not your passion, you won't have as much energy to. That's quite key, I think.
I think for me it worked really well, and it's how I found myself in yacht racing. I feel like my whole career, if I had to look at it as a percentage thing, is been probably roughly around 80% yacht racing. Yacht racing, or based around the yachting industry. Wow. And when I made that switch from graphic design into video, I was so green. And I remember like stepping into a studio and going through the process of like, right, make us an edit. And it was around water sports and sailing, but it was very sort of intimidating. Like, this is proper studio, proper like editing. And I remember they could tell that I had the knowledge, but I hadn't quite got the storytelling elements down yet. And it was one of their first gigs. They offered me to come out and do one of their live events for the World Match Racing Tour. All right. And I remember sitting in the live gallery as it was going on, and the director's selecting all the shots, and they're trying to tell this live yacht racing story. And I said to the director, that boat on the right there is going to be ahead, because they both tacked off in separate directions. And for the non-sailor, that's probably like, how can you tell who's in the lead? And I said, that boat on the right is going to be in the lead when they come back together. And they looked at me like, the hell are you on about? Like, that's, what are you speaking?
Who's this
like,
joker?
It's the wind and the angles. And they're like, what are you seeing? And it's like, as yacht racers, we can tell. So...
it's kind of tacking up wind a bit or something, and then to really hook it down there.
And it's they're coming up towards the top mark, and it's like they're trying to tell the story of who's in the lead, and they were taking guesswork right up until the cross. Yeah, and so
a shame you couldn't get on the present it.
Well, that wasn't until later on actually. I made that
jump.
I've done some like replay analysis and things like that live. But it was
a proper celebrity we got on.
No, I don't know about celebrity. I don't know. But yeah, and it was cool because in that studio, those guys, Red Handed TV, it was called at the time, sort of, made me feel like my value in knowing yacht racing.
Yeah.
And they were wanting to pay for it.
Yeah.
And I think as a young freelancer or someone that's just starting out, sometimes that can be tricky. Is to really sort of see your value and how you charge.
I think you've almost got 2 or 3 different skills that go into the same job.
Absolutely.
I remember ages ago when I some idea of wanting to. You see National Geographic, you're like, wow, it's amazing photography, and you kind of think, oh, I'll apply to get a job there, and it was at the time, at least anyway. But there were people that had degrees in engineering and photography, and like it wasn't just. Yeah. I think it's a bit later on the questions, but I do think that sometimes, as a photographer or a freelancer on your own, you're just sometimes on your own, a bit of a loner. Yeah. And I wonder, in recent years, looked more at psychology and well-being of your life and things, and think, is that the type of person you are? Do you mind being on your own a lot, or do you want to be in a team and with people?
Massive,
and stuff like that. So I think that's why I left London. I've had a big break from London just because I felt quite a lot on my own, and on the coast here I feel like I'm part of more of a community. Yeah. And there's quite it's like you've got different values in your life at different stages in your life, so sometimes you just want to try and prove yourself and be successful, and other times
in the hustle, right?
Get amongst it kind of thing. And then other times you just you want to be in a team or like-minded people in a community. That's why this podcasty thing is like, we used to meet up with London with like Jack Eames, a photographer, a really good friend of mine, and Sam Christmas, and we just and meet up and just hang out and chat and go, why don't you try this? Or, oh, that's really good lighting, and exchange ideas. And sometimes it can feel a little bit like you're on your own as a photographer, but it sounds like through your pathway that you're kind of involved with other people and events and and the windsurfing and sailing, and it's kind of, you're part of something. So that's quite nourishing for your personality and growth as a human being, because I felt that you can, and that's kind of me moaning a bit, but you can burn out a bit if you push relentlessly, and you've got nothing else rewarding in your life. You're like, you can just burn out because you need to be fulfilled in other areas. So
for sure. And I think I've always said that if I've never really been a big city person, I'm from a city in New Zealand. We call it a city. It was kind of felt like a town when I was there. It didn't feel massive compared to like a Wellington or an Auckland or even Christchurch. I've lived in Christchurch, but I think when it comes to like coming to the UK, I've always sort of felt more at home being in a place like, I was in Plymouth for 6 years. And I feel more at home actually in Southbourne, Portsmouth area, and I never really thought that. And when I first moved back last year, living with my friend Lucy, I never really thought. I thought I was heading to pool, and I wanted to head to pool because of the water sports scene and that thing that feels like me.
Over there,
But I've sort of found that actually with the Witterings and like the guys in the community that are around here, I haven't been out in a few months because it's pretty cold.
There's a few Saturdays back was good, but I was down the gym, but I missed that. Was a pretty good one. But
half my gear's in Barcelona at the moment, so I don't have my winter wetsuit, my hood or anything like that. And I went out probably a couple of months ago, and it was starting to get a little bit cold for me.
I think it dipped to like 3-4 degrees the water, and it was like, that is, well, I don't know if you wear, I find it hard to wear gloves. Because it's a bit thicker. So your grip just exhausts more when you're holding on.
Massively,
So you have to keep them exposed, but then digits just freeze off, It's like...
Well, I've turned to the dark side of wing foiling.
Oh, really?
Just a bit, so I didn't want to admit that straight away.
Well, I'm going to save it till later on.
I'll always be a windsurfer, but I think with my situation at the moment, I think if I went back to Lucy's house with a whole lot of windsurfing kicks, she'd boot me out.
Oh, really? It's like really that divide.
I've already got my supboard, my race board up in the roof of her like outhouse and stuff, and you
need space.
That's why I bought a van just recently, a big Volkswagen Craft.
Oh, nice. Oh, really? A Craft?
Yeah.
Next level,
It's
So you get everything in the top, and you've still got space to get in yourself.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. I mean, to be honest, like, side quest, but when it gets to 30 knots plus, like, I don't want to be wingfoiling anymore. I want to be windsurfing.
Yeah, I was going to say, because I'm always like, because I'm getting better, but like 20 knots onwards is lovely, and then 25 is, especially on the sea, it's a bit choppy. I'm not quite used to that, but 30, then it's like, right, brace yourself, and I'm going to get chucked in a lot. So I thought there would have been a cut-off way earlier for wingfoiling. Or
well, I think it's I mean, I've had some pretty windy days, more windier in Spain, because I've just lived there for the last couple of years. Had some big days in Barcelona, actually, off the coast there, and some really hectic shore breaks that sort of come in. But yeah, I think I've got to the point where it's like 30 knots plus. I'm like, I just want to be windsurfing. You know, really hook in, strap in, like, I don't know, max 4.2 on an 80 litre.
And
just some jumps. Like,
go for it.
Yeah. I've always been a wave sailor as well. So like,
oh right, really?
Jumping and looping and stuff like that. Yeah.
Yes, I'm the very basics I can get, but I see them out there. It's pretty epic. Right, trying to steer it on.
Yeah, sorry, we're talking about sports all day with you.
Yeah, it's like what are we doing? So trying to provide value for people starting off as photographers. So anyway, did you look up to anyone early on as a photographer, and did you try and copy anything, or who was your like inspiration or anything like that in the very beginning? Because that's quite.
I'm more. I will say I'm more video.
Okay.
I actually would struggle, and I would say I struggle to sort of, I guess, approach things as a photographer. I feel like I do have a good knack for photography in water sports and sailing. But I would always tag that onto my video work first. I'm first and foremost a video guy.
Cool.
But I think when I first started, there was a couple of, I guess you say YouTubers that were pretty good, making some pretty cool content around the time. But I guess it was local guys that I worked with that I found really inspiring. A guy called Jack Watson, who I worked with, I thought he was really bloody good.
Nice.
You know, his eye for everything as well. There's a couple of guys later on in the years that I sort of got influenced by when I worked for the ocean race. A guy called James Blake, who's actually a local guy in Emsworth.
Oh, really?
He did the Shackleton documentary recently when they discovered Shackleton's ship. And I mean, a couple of these guys, a couple of other guys.
So kind of more local people around you.
Yeah, like guys that I've directly been involved with. I mean, there's always the guys that shoot for Red Bull, and you think, pretty. I guess you could say he's a famous guy. Connor McDonald. He shoots with Aston Martin F1 team, and
nice.
I think he had that story when he shot with Kim and Kanye for their wedding. They just discovered him on Instagram, and they said, "Hey, do you want to shoot our wedding?"
Interesting.
And that was his big, massive break into the world, or how he got famous. And he's got an incredible eye for photography.
Yeah, because it's interesting. Because my stuff is generally like you'd have fashion photographers, but because it's a photography thing, and then so maybe I was pulled more to studio setups because it was stills and all the lighting that goes on with that, and Richard Avedon, Nick Nike, or Helmut Newton, and these kind of. Maybe Nick Knight's not as old school, but still that kind of generation, and that was what was really attracted me to it. So and there's GoPro in action, and that's pulling you in that direction, which has happened to me like more recently in the last 10 years. But it was more so it's interesting if you're not such a stills guy, then it's going to be different influences and probably people you see around you more. I don't know, but like the fashion magazines and the front covers, and I'm not sure where it is, but a good question was, what was you, was there something you were, when you were starting off early on, pushing for to almost prove yourself to yourself? So my example is like trying to get that first front cover for a fashion magazine. It wasn't necessarily a big one, but that was when I was living in Spain. And I was just got to get that. Then that means like not established, but it's quite a lot for yourself. But you
kind
feel
of made it.
You are a professional when that thing's happened or something. Like getting your first commission or paid job, and for me that was like for All Bar One or something. And I was getting paid and like half decent money. Like I better not screw this up.
Yeah.
Was there something either that you you realised when you made it, or something you were pushing for to try and?
I think early on, like being an action sports guy, being, you know, growing up in windsurfing and you know, really being attracted to those action sports and snowboarding. I've always been a snowboarder as well.
Okay.
I think ultimately for me, it was always Red Bull.
Yeah.
Like if I shoot for Red Bull, I've made it.
Because for a long time they've just been huge.
Oh god, yeah. And I feel like it's a hard nut to crack, that one, and it's generally when I've spoke to people, it's always through contacts. You know, people you've worked with.
Because that's another question later on. Is like, how do you? Yeah, but anyway, how do you get going with stuff like that?
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. I mean, contacts are super important, but also your work's got to back you up as well. You know, that speaks louder than any email would, any phone call, any like DM,
cold calling and stuff like that.
Yeah. I mean, so it was the Red Bull thing early on for me. I think, I guess feeling like I made it probably came. That's a good question. That's a really good question.
Because it seems like you kind of...
I think I've always been quite mellow about, you know, I think being a Kiwi, we've always been quite mellow about, you know, you may get good gigs, but you sort of see the next thing. You never sort of get above yourself a little bit.
Yeah.
And I would say that when it's sort of like just reaffirmed that, hey, you're doing good stuff and keep going, was when I got pulled in for the Tokyo Olympics with TVNZ.
Okay.
And they got me to make a whole lot of, you know, BTS and interview, you know, shoot and produce these, you know, pieces with their athletes. So,
brilliant.
You know, really famous people in New Zealand like Dame Valerie Adams, their sailing team, Peter Burling and Blair Tuke when they were still racing 49ers. Okay. And then, there was a girl from the karate side, Andrea. And I think seeing those, because then I worked in the broadcast as well for the Olympics, and then seeing those played out on national television, you know, and my parents watching them. That's quite impressive. And actually I had Tony, the host, say live on air, like, oh, big shout out to our graphics guy, James Westford.
No way.
And I was like, man, that's like... That's big. That's national television. For all the, I don't know, everyone thinks there's only like 20 people in New Zealand watching, but the population of London.
They've got TVs in New Zealand.
Yeah, we just got broadband.
But yeah, it's interesting. So it's kind of nice, calm trajectory almost. Like you achieved that, but you were already. Yeah, but then for me, that's the front cover. It's like, and I don't know how many people saw it, but
that was big for me, and it's you know, it was cool, and you know, a few people give me props for it. And it's, you know, that was quite late in my career, and I sort of felt like I'd had a lot of wins before that.
Yeah.
The 17-18 ocean race, you know, the last time they were in, you know, non-foiling boats going around the world, I did some pretty cool stuff for that race. And it sort of changed how they did things. Because
it's quite an interesting... So trying to nudge it occasionally back to psychology, because it's like, what does it matter if we, like... It's the psychology. How are we trying to prove ourselves? So what does it matter if I never got the front cover? Who are we trying to... I'm still beating myself up now that I'm still trying to keep pushing and evolving and achieve more as a photographer and videographer, but... Who for? Who are we trying to impress? Because it's 100%. It's that whole like competition thing as well. Like there's a lot of photographers, videographers out there, and then there's more coming through every year, more and more. Population's expanding. So and it's trying to find your like inner peace almost. So how are you fixed with your headspace on? Yeah, kind of. Either like looking after you or not burning out, or how does it fit for you? It might not. The beauty would be that it doesn't, and you're just not bothered, and it's just like cruise.
I mean, I'll admit, like I do feel that anxiety in my career, and like, you know, it's
because you've got to manage. This is a part we're not talked about, and or not just with photography or videography, but with anything, is it? You're not looked after quite much.
This was certainly not talked about when I studied. You know, when we're talking about, hey, you know, you're going through graphic design or whatever like that, they never really talked about if you would go off freelance, how to manage your time and things like that, or any sort of learnings growing up. They never really talked about life skills like this, you know, and it's something I sort of fight with at the moment, because, you know, the space that I'm competing in against, you know, guys that can shoot, edit, and produce all their own content now, which is ultimately where the stuff is changing. You know, back, I'm sure a few years ago, you could be a producer and make a living off just being a producer.
Yeah, this is
huge. You could be a shooter
yeah.
and just be a shooter that would hand your footage to someone else and make a career out of doing that. But I guess now, with these freelance gigs that I'm going for, it's like you have to do everything. I was honestly thinking about this a couple of weeks ago, and I was thinking, how long can I actually just keep, because I don't know, 42 now. I'm like, how long can I keep realistically doing this for?
Yeah.
And, you know,
because the travel, is that the travel drains?
You know what, actually, I don't think people really give me any sympathy for this, because again, I said I went to Phoenix and I went to Abu Dhabi recently, and they might see an Instagram post of me, you know, recently I put one by a pool looking out at a sunrise. That, I would like to say that is the only time that I actually see daylight. Because then I go to the event site, and then I'll show you the dark truck that I have to sit in for like 8 hours. And we did a broadcast for 13 hours. Like, and I'm sitting in a dark space looking at 2 screens, operating an EVS remote for 13 hours.
See, this is one of the key things that I left London, because I was working with a couple of other photographers. I wasn't really assisting, it was more because they were friends and just helping them out, like lighting technician. But it was full on summer, and I was like 3 days in the studio and didn't see any daylight. And you just kind of like, whoa.
Well, that's where the burnout thing comes. And I think if you keep chasing and you keep, like, I know friends in the industry that are working a lot, you know, are really doing well when you look at it on paper. But I think you need to balance that. And recently I found the Hyrox thing, actually doing Hyrox myself. You know, again, Lucy introduced me to it when I came back, and I had a session with Grace. Okay. And I remember thinking, God, this is horrible. I don't want to do this.
Yeah. Oh, really? It was your first one?
And then I started working in Hyrox, and I was like, well, to understand it better, to work in Hyrox, I've got to sort of do it myself and train it myself. And it's changed everything and how I look at things and how I structure work with, you know, well-being and looking after myself.
Because this is later on a question, but like, do you manage that as well? Do you look after yourself? Do you have rituals? So you basically look after yourself.
Oh yeah, 100%. I'm doing it now when I go abroad.
We should have a big shout out to Grace Greenshields as well.
Yeah, Gracie, thanks for giving me PTSD on my first session.
But yeah, like, because I've always been into sport, like all my life. I've played football and tennis, and then kind of getting into triathlon training and stuff. And now a lot more, a bit older, into like CrossFit and lifting and stuff. But that's kind of been my world. But so that's kind of helped me like go for, even when I wasn't doing much, 2 runs a week or something like that. So it keeps the juices flowing and you clear your headspace. But
so I couldn't agree with you more on that, because I've noticed that like up till now, right now, today, I haven't been in the water for a couple of months, and I feel like that is starting to egg me a little bit. I know it's freezing out there, but I really need to, even if it's just a flat water session.
Because it's nature, it's just getting out in nature. I mean, it's cliche now, but it's just getting out in nature. But then, it's tricky, because if you're in the dark space and you're editing and working, because you know this is going to take a few hours to edit, so I'm going to be like hunched over a computer. So this is the fun bit, but there's the slog behind it all. So it's interesting how we manage that. And so maybe that's you getting to the stage now where you're thinking, I think you just weigh it up a bit, don't you? The pros and cons, because you know it's you've got to live your life.
You got to live your life.
Have honestly. A nice life.
You got to do what makes you passionate as well. And I think having sports like water sports or doing CrossFit, Hyrox, you know, these things, you know, even though they hurt at the time, you know, and you're training pretty hard and you're pushing yourself, you ultimately feel so much better afterwards. Yeah. And it clears your head. And it, you know, Lucy, again, a very good friend of mine, she does Hyrox as well. And she instantly feels better when she comes back, because she's a bloody hard-working lawyer. And she does long hours, you know, like we do as editors. Yeah. And you can instantly see the difference. And she says the same about me. You always feel better when you come back from the gym and you're ready to, okay, now I can sit down and do some editing. And I think for me, honestly, that has been, you know, later on when I'm trying to hustle and keep up with the kids, you know, these bloody iPhone kids. Yeah. Yeah, I feel like I got a little edge on the iPhone kids, but if I'm trying to keep up with the
half the reason I started this is so I can have a moan and be like, oh, those clients let me down or whatever.
Oh my God, no, it's But I feel like just clearing my head and doing what makes me ultimately passionate, why I work, why I grind away, earning money. I don't just earn money. I like to spend it as well. Spend it on things I'm passionate about.
You've got windsurf kit as well. It's going to
drain,
or foiling stuff is going to drain you like.
Ever since everything went carbon fiber, that's multiple.
Yeah. So what's the biggest challenge you faced starting out? Or so far in your career? What's been the most difficult thing you've had to or a blockage you've had to overcome or something like that?
I would say...
If anything, and there might not be...
No, there definitely is a couple of things. I think the being made redundant thing does suck. And
early-ish on, that was... Right?
It was early-ish on. It actually happened later on, actually, when I worked for a company called Navico. Okay. They went through a big buyout by an American company called Brunswick, who's... they've got all the boat brands in the world in their portfolio. It's a really impressive company, but they wanted to change. They saw it differently for Navico, and I'd only just started with them, really, and this whole redundancy phase went through. And even though I knew it was coming, and I was one of the last ones to get made redundant, it still sucks because you get sort of booted out, and then it's like, okay, do I go back to freelance? I haven't talked to these freelance clients that I had for a couple of years. Yeah. Can I still do it? I'm going to have to build up again. And it weighs on you. It's like I sort of had thoughts of like, God, am I going to have to go back to working in water sports again? Which is not a bad thing. I don't knock it. But it's when you go from making it your full-time job and you're paid to produce content.
Yeah, it's funny.
When you have to go back to another job to build that back up again.
2 steps back and you've got to,
because it's a psychological thing for sure.
Yeah, because you saying, oh God, I have to go back to freelancing, I'm going to have to find a job. That's all I ever knew really in London. It's just like job to job.
Yeah,
and then you get an amazing, like a Nike shoot or whatever, and you've got all the lighting set up and it's really good, high fives all round, and then next day it's like, oh shit, where's the next job?
Yeah, next job. Exactly, it's the next one,
and you've got to work out, I guess, so starting off, like starting young, how do you want to live it? Because if you want regular work, then sometimes it will come to an end, like you say, but then you've had all those days. I've got a dead battery there.
Oh, well, good. Well, I think it's also like, I think just being patient as well. Like I know that's a big word for me to say. I get a lot of anxiety when I try and tell myself to be patient.
Yeah.
I think just trusting, once you've got a few years under your belt, I think just trusting that work will ultimately come to you in the end. If you keep working at it and keep, having the chats and everything like that, it will come to you. It will.
Yeah, I remember when I was working for that studio in Madrid, Daylight Studios, shout out to Daylight Studios, and I've left and went freelance because I had a couple of photographers from Getty Images, Gary Pryor, mainly that I was working for. Amazing photographer, did loads of stuff for Adidas and things like that. And I was just their lighting guy, setting all the lights up, dragging them all the way across, living in Spain, all the way around Spain. But that was the thing, is when I went freelance, it's just like, my girlfriend at the time was like, what the hell are you doing? Because there was nothing for 3 months. I was like, shit, what have I done? And that seems to be the thing, isn't it? You've got freelance or regular work for a company or a business. And can you handle it? Like, that's the thing. How's your brain going to deal with it? And be positive.
Hard. It's hard, and especially when I moved to Europe and I was basing myself out of the UK and working. Again, like I said early on, that 80% of my work has been in the water sports industry and sailing. And typically in the wintertime, there's no yachting events.
Yeah.
And you have to go all the way to, I guess, the Caribbean to see any sort of regular yachting events going on. And that's a pretty competitive world to be in down there. I know a few people that work there, but it's a very small world.
Okay.
And there's this big hole of 3 months, 4 months over the winter time where there's not really a lot of work going.
Yeah.
Especially yachting events or regattas happening that I was predominantly chasing.
Yeah.
And so I think it wasn't until recently I was like, God, when I look at my portfolio, it was pretty much just yacht racing.
Yeah.
Yacht racing, and then a little bit of stuff with a few events that have happened, a few different events. Did a little bit with North kiteboarding, North foils as well. But again, it's just in water sports.
Yeah.
And so it wasn't until Hyrox came along and this really aggressive program that they've got with multiple events happening any 1 week. You know, that 1 week they had like 4 events happening around the world.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, this fills the gaps now.
Yeah.
And, you know, I guess I breathed a sigh of relief come the start of December last year when I looked at my calendar starting to fill up consistently in blocks throughout the year, which was good, mainly due to Hyrox.
Yeah. So how do you is there a difference between how you pitch yourself for work as a freelancer, just trying to get one gig, or like with the Hyrox thing? Because I imagine there's freelance photographers and videographers there, but then if you're working for a production company or a company that's running it, is there different ways? Like, I'm just trying to think of somebody new trying to get into Hyrox, because it's quite exploded quite a lot recently. Is there a different way of approaching it? Or you just approach companies, or you?
Well, I think for my introduction to it was, again, with the guys at Inspo Hub. Ben Blake, I worked with him very early on in my career, and he was one of the guys that actually taught me a lot in the early stages when I was making the switch to video.
Yeah.
So it's almost like I've come full circle. We're working again with each other. Like, he's married and he's got kids.
You've got nice connection and contacts that you just keep. You just connected to.
And I mean, you might not, like, it was funny. We didn't speak for years and years and years, and then just sort of naturally got back in touch with each other. And then through doing Hyrox at Hive, you know, I've made that connection again and come back around, and we're, you know, working together again, which is really cool. But
because if you hadn't done that, you might not have known the people around here.
Yeah, I don't think without coming back to Southbourne or back to the UK, joining Hive, working in, you know, training Hyrox, I don't think I would have probably made that connection as easily.
Yeah, I don't think so too. It's funny how things work like that. Yeah,
and that goes back to you know, doing stuff that makes you outside of work, doing stuff that may feed into the professional world as well. But I think for me, getting into doing the stuff with Hyrox or working with Hyrox, not directly, I'm contracted through a company and we're providing a service for Hyrox.
Yeah.
But, you know, they've got loads of guys there shooting, loads of photographers doing the same sort of stuff. But I guess what we're doing is for the live broadcast.
Yeah.
And primarily I joined the team at Inspo Hub as a EVS or replay operator.
Okay.
So for the broadcast.
So you kind of got a job role within like the whole like TV production thing. So you've got a specific role. So it's almost like how would you go freelance doing that? You've almost got to.
Well, ultimately, I mean, I'm still very much freelance, but I've managed to link in the fact that I can shoot and edit as well.
Yeah.
And that, you know, there's another guy in the team, Will, who's doing all the editing, and if I can assist him and take a bit off his plate,
workload,
you know, it's another string in your bow. And so I've always thought as a freelancer, it's really beneficial to have your core skill, the thing that you're really good at and that you're known for. Mm-hmm. But don't be afraid to sort of pick up a camera and start learning how to shoot, because you know, they may need a second camera op, they may just need someone to pick up a camera that knows how to turn it on and focus and you know, monitor levels and things like that, and that's how you start getting more gigs, because you got more value.
How do you think your style or approach has evolved since you began? So kind of what do you do? Are you doing differently?
It's a good question.
Maybe. I mean, the technology keeps evolving. And,
social media has changed everything and how we do it. You know, I remember when I first started editing, a short edit for us was 3.5 minutes.
Okay.
That was a quick edit.
Yeah.
And now we're down to 20 seconds.
Yeah.
So, I think so. My style's changed somewhat, and I hate that it's sort of for the clicks, because a lot of companies will see success in video through how many clicks and likes and things that you know.
It's like we're being shoehorned into this era, which is like...
And you can pay for clicks, you can pay for likes, you know, and it's artificial and false. But I think ultimately, as long as the client is really happy with the video and it speaks 110% about the company, it's perfect for the company and their voice.
Yeah.
That's your success.
Yeah, I mean, brand image, voice.
Who cares if it's like only got, I don't know, 4,000, 5,000 views versus all these social media videos where it's like, it needs to have 50, 100K, 200K. I mean, I know, I won't dob them in, but I know a few people that have been paying for that stuff to just boost the
Yeah.
Boost the video up and it gets like 200k, 100k.
But then, yeah, that's really interesting. But your style and things is, well, you film. Does that affect how you film certainly, or
yeah,
we're just aware of it?
Yeah. I think early on, I would have thought that we were very much sort of shooting quite linear. You know, from point A to point B,
giving
point
things time
C, point
to
D. Yeah, everything was happening down a timeline. You know, that way. But now with the way things have changed on social media, I think, you know, people want to know things straight away.
Yeah.
So you almost have to drip feed them the final answer in the first 5 seconds, 10
Tell them
seconds.
what's going to happen, and then
Hey, stick around because that's what I'm going to give you later in the edit. And you know, that I think discovering that and working that angle now has been how I've sort of changed my editing style. Yeah, for sure. And shooting, I guess shooting is, I think you shoot it. I guess as I've got better, I've got more confident to push the shots, you know, using the tools that I've got, like a gimbal. Drones have massively changed how we do stuff, you know, and the new drone that just came out last year it's just leaps and bounds.
So what type is this, in like a proper quadcopter or something?
No, it's just the new DJI Mavic.
Oh yeah, because that's the Osmo, yes. Because the Osmo is just the drone head, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
yeah.
So
bit.
what DJI have done, you know, for that world is insane, and it's, you know, we're basically achieving a shot, and I know someone that would rip me for saying this, but we're almost replicating what a heli can do now.
Okay.
With the, you know, the depth of field that we can achieve on the new Mavic 4.
Oh wow!
Gives us that sense of, okay, yeah, that looks like a helicopter shot because you punched in.
Yeah, yeah.
Whereas drones up until then, it's just been one view.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, and quite wide at that. And
quite wide. Yeah, it's been the action cam stuck on a drone.
Yeah, basically. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. So what has been your most memorable or unusual shoot so far, or the first big shoot or cover? So I think it's probably better. Like, what's the most memorable thing? You kind of mentioned it. Well, maybe the TV getting announced on the live broadcast was pretty big.
That was an awesome moment, for sure, and it was a memorable one. I think I've had some pretty memorable shoots. I think doing the 17-18 ocean race was
okay.
Like, there were so many moments, and it wasn't even really the professional work, because it was I was doing the same stuff week in and week out. So, you know, we were covering the race as it raced around the world. Wow. But essentially I was covering a yacht race, and one week Axel Nobel won the leg, and then the next week Dongfeng won the leg, and then it was a Dongfeng versus Matt Frey race, and then, you know, there was some cool stories happening, and it was, as a yacht racer, I really loved that, because I was like, this is awesome. Yeah. Like waking up at 3-4 o'clock in the morning to see where the positioning was. Yeah. And trying to get like a VNR out to make the news the next day. It was cool doing that, but
yeah, it's a real buzz. You feel like you're part of something like really happening. Yeah.
But I think it was the weirdos that I got to work with. Okay. And one of them's
the characters, like the
characters, and one of them's like my best mate now. Like I feel like when you work in a team like that and you travel the world together, you go through those highs, and it's just like we all flew to Melbourne, you know, and it was a massive flight, as you know, to get to Melbourne from Alicante, where we were based. Okay. And then being awake for how long? I think some of us were awake for damn near 48 hours doing this, because the boats were coming in so evenly. Yeah. You'd sort of get the boat coming in, you shoot your stuff on the dock, your interviews, you produce your VNR, and then you get it distributed and you get it out, and then you probably get an hour or 2 hours until the next boat was coming. So you don't go sleep. And there's moments like I felt like basically fell asleep underneath a tree in Melbourne, because I was just so tired. I was so tired, and I had my camera in the hand, and I was just like, in moments like that, you know, and just some weird, funny things that have happened in Brazil. The
characters as well, and the
characters. It's always the characters. Yeah. It's always the people that make these jobs.
I love people that are we can be them as well, but like the backbone, someone who's just like a grip, and that's their main role, and that's all they do, but they're there for 30 years, and they're it's so brilliant, because they're the backbone of it. They're the part of the team that you can not live without, you know?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's funny when these long events sort of start and you get to the midpoint where it's intense and everyone's just hanging on by a thread, and then you get to the end of the event and then it stops and it finishes, and you stop seeing these people every day, and it's like, God, it feels like a breakup.
It's like, you know, like the festival's over.
You suddenly come home and it's like, oh, I remember like last week I was in Montenegro, and you see these people on the dock, and then it ends. It happened last year for me again. You know, I thought I would know how to deal with it, but at the end of the Ocean Race Europe, everyone goes their own ways, and everyone splits and goes back to where they live around the world, and then it's like, God, you know, I was walking the dock with this person just recently.
See, that's the thing for me, is the biggest thing I miss, not being in London and not being part of a circuit, or even before when I was in Spain and working for these Getty Images photographers, is, and I see I love Formula One sports car racing, and I follow it quite a lot, and it seeing that and the way that it's like every like second week or it's a regular for 8 months or whatever, you're on a circuit, you're with a group, and so I was doing all this stuff, and these Getty Images photographers were doing a lot for like Adidas and bits for Nike and Pepsi, and you would just travel around. Every 2-3 weeks there'd be another shoot, because you'd be doing the Champions League footballs, you'd be doing the new boots, you'd be doing the new apparel or the shirts and stuff, and that's almost 6 monthly, and it was just such a buzz, and you feel like you're part of something that's bigger than yourself, and then it's dealing with that when, like you say, when the party's over, the shoots are over, or the event's over, and then you're just on your own, and it's kind of like dealing with that. And it links in again a bit with the psychology of what do you do if you're just a freelancer on your own? How do you motivate yourself? How do you keep your spirits up? And or what do you want to be a part of, or what do you feel connected to? So
I think it's like, I think what I've felt every time that I've felt quite low in the career, I felt, you know, like, God, you know, why am I doing this, or who am I doing this for? Like, I'm not feeling the passion as much. One instance happened actually just before COVID. I was going through a horrendous breakup at the time, and I remember my friend, actually not too far from here, sat me down and was like, right, what was the last place that truly made you happy? And I said, Colorado. Okay. And she was like, right, you're going to use half my miles, and you're going to book your ticket out to Colorado and just go. Awesome. Just reset, go and do something for yourself. And I ended up going out there and, you know, working with these guys from a ski shop. And I was quite inspired by these guys, because they were just full ski bums. Okay. So I ended up making a video about the shop, you know, and it got selected for the festival and everything. Oh, really? And I felt like, God, that was, you know, when I got the email, come back
nourishing, and say, rewarding is that, you know what I mean? You go
like,
to find yourself, and you just shoot something anyway, and then,
Yeah, well, it was one of those moments where it's like, you know, when the email came in that, you know, my film had got selected for the festival. Wow. It was like, you know, a proud moment again. It was like, yeah, you've been through shit, but you're still able to produce something that people really, really vibed with. Yeah. And for me, it was like, yeah, damn right, I can still do this. Yeah. Stuff, you know.
So is there anything you do to keeping your like finger on the pulse, or keeping engaged? Because I think I've lost that a little bit with stills shoots, not being in London and not having those big campaigns where, you know, you're a well-oiled machine.
If you're looking at your calendar and you've got sort of shoot happening here, but then you've got a few months until the next big shoot, I think just bridging the gap. And I think it's just picking up your camera and shooting for yourself. Even if it's just, I don't know, right now I'm just thinking like the most random thing I could do is probably on a really windy day, go down to Witterings and fly my drone and film the guys windsurfing and kite surfing and stuff. Yeah. But it's still me flying a drone in adverse conditions.
Yeah, you're focused. You're in the game.
Using my skill set, and I think just enjoying it at the same time. I mean, I think some of my most favorite photos that I've generated was just on the back end of doing a video shoot, and I was like, oh, I'll just take a photo. Yeah. And it's, you know, just reminding yourself and doing it for yourself is the biggest thing I could probably recommend. Yes. Okay. Because ultimately, I think, if you're just producing stuff for people for a paycheck, you will burn out, and you will get to that point where it's, why am I doing this?
Yeah, so if it's not
for
yourself. If I'm
not doing it for myself, then why am I doing it? And I think you got to keep doing it for yourself to really keep yourself going and keep yourself in the hustle, because God, there's going to be a kid that can do it 200 quid cheaper than you every day.
Better said, like keep yourself in the hustle as opposed to finger on the pulse. If you could have any other job in the industry, what would it be? Like I don't know, like I said about the gaffer or something within the industry, like, but because you do quite, you know, you're filming but
I mean, in the video,
like lighting, I'd just love to be like a lighting technician. Yeah. 3 or 4 of us in a van, and we're supplying all the kit from London to all these shoots, and you're just rigging it up. And that lighting I absolutely love.
I don't know if it's a grass is greener on the other side moment, but I would say, yeah, shooting, you know, National Geographic stuff.
Okay.
You know, and I've had a moment.
So like much slower, maybe
slower
stills,
place,
film.
waiting for the shot to come to you, sort of thing. I was very fortunate to do a trip to the Arctic, you know, a couple of years ago, with a boat called Barber Boat, with Andreas and the team there, and I really enjoyed that. As you know, you're looking out at nature moments. You're just looking for those moments, waiting for them to happen, like a whale. Or
I've often, you know, you get this like, I waited 3 days for this shot. Like that would be having the headspace or in the location to do something like that.
I mean, to be honest, like I'd love to switch and look at stuff in a photography sense in nature and that way. But again, I think, yeah, that would be probably my answer to your question. If I could become a photographer overnight and do it for like 48 hours or something like that and just see how it felt. Yeah. I'd love to feel that. That'd be a pretty cool job. I mean, I can, like I said, I don't want to say I'm a photographer. I never really will say I'm a photographer. Yeah. But there's been jobs where I've gone and taken photos and they've turned out pretty well. Ones that I'm pretty happy with.
Well, you've got the eye. That's the thing. Once you've got the eye and the...
Well, I did study it at uni as well, medium format photography.
Oh, really? Yeah, lovely. I used to have a Mamiya Pro 2 RZ67. Used to love that, like film cameras and
what I had. It was something I picked up from the uni.
Yeah. What's one thing in your kit you couldn't live without?
What's one thing in my kit that I couldn't live without?
Or what's the oldest bit of kit you have and you still use it? Like that tripod there, I bought that at uni.
Yeah, gotcha.
So that's like,
I would say the oldest bit of kit, or the thing that I can't live without, or the thing that always comes with me on shoots would have to be, I'd say the audio unit that plugs into the hot shoe, my Sony K3M. So it's a shotgun mic, but it has 2 XLR jacks and a 3.5 as well. So you can run so many different audio options into it. That's something that comes on every single shoot, but it's quite gammy. And so when you're jumping on a boat and you're being bounced around and thrown around on a boat, it sits on top of your camera like this. And if you bump it, it could rip off quite easily. So, you know, the guys that, you know, I haven't done a lot of it actually, you know, to the extent that my friends that are OBRs, you know, onboard reporters on these boats for days, weeks on end, but I don't think they usually run a K3M. They usually run this. I
like it. It's really like technical and geeky.
Yeah,
We've been in our coffin with my tripod and you with your... What is he doing? Why has he got that? Check that one's going. That's good.
No, I would say, the K3M is probably the thing that has come on every single shoot. And actually the oldest bit of kit that I've got would be my lav mics, my proper UTX. Sony mics that I've had for a while. I've had those since 2018.
Yeah, because I was even thinking to ask you at the end, but even this setup, this is stills camera that do video set. Like it's like it's on the limit of not really. There's a next level I keen to probably go to. What's a lesson your photography videography career has taught you about life? Is there anything, or you've learned about yourself? So for me, it's quite good. It changes a lot because again, psychology thing, but you know, because you see some like hippie stuff about you can achieve anything you want in life, and it's like, well, no, that client doesn't want to work with me. I've emailed them 100 times, and they don't like my work, and so it's sort of there's many things for me, but one thing is like you can't have everything you want. You know, it's not that like I first started off trying to do bits of fashion. It was the lighting that got me into it. So that front cover was like a fashion front cover, my milestone. But you can't have everything. You can't work with anybody you want, and you can't be as amazing, as successful as Annie Leibowitz. So that's been really tough for me in a smaller scale. So not Annie Leibowitz, but just certain jobs you just don't win. You know, there's a big one for Carlsberg I didn't get years ago, and I was just got quite far along in the process, but then one or two down, I didn't get the job. So I don't know, is there things that you've learned about yourself or for the creative industry has taught you?
I think very early on, and this probably came through graphic design, is to not be so personally attached to your work. Don't treat it as like offensive if someone doesn't like your work.
So big, yeah.
Or, you know, I guess as a young video editor, you may see, you know, send through your first version of a video and you get the, I don't like this, and there's a laundry list.
It's hard to be not take things personally.
And that feels like, God, this is something I've personally attached myself to. This is my style.
That's the biggest lesson.
It makes me, but you know, at the end of the day, you're still working for them, but they are the client. Yeah. You know, and I think
they are paying you.
They are paying you to produce stuff for them, not produce stuff for you. Yeah. So I think early on, as a graphic designer and as a video guy, it's always been, don't personally attach yourself. Okay. Just you know, not in a sense that you don't care. Yeah. But just take the personal out of it. And
finding a way to train if you're not good at that, to train yourself to, you know, it's like some people completely piss you off by saying two words to you, but then if you said it to me, I'd be like, oh, that's cool. It's like, but why? That's just psychology, I think, right? You just
I feel like there's probably certain people that could rub you the wrong way, but then I feel like there's people like you and me that would, you know, we could say stuff to each other, but we know it's just because we understand the industry and how it works, and it's coming from a place of respect, probably first and foremost. But yeah, I mean, my stuff is not going to be liked by everyone. You know, not everyone loves what I do. And that's cool. But if the person who's paying me loves it, they come back to me each time. You know, I see that as enough for me to be like.
And just the way you say that, and the calmness in your voice is like a quality that's going to help you, help us, help the person just be calmer and go a bit longer in life without being so like city straight. For me, London, oh my God, she didn't like, I'm trying to get work and fight. And
I think as freelancers, that's ultimately, you know, when I worked for Navico and I felt the sense of like, oh, I've got time to make this job happen, you know, and it's like, oh, you know, okay, we missed a week for a shoot, or it couldn't happen then, you know, it'll happen at times, you know, or it'll happen down the track. Whereas I think as a freelance, you're like, well, if that shoot didn't happen then, when is it going to happen?
Yeah.
And I've got that happening at the moment with a client, and it's, you know, there's a shoot we were meant to do and it hasn't happened, and it's like, well, when's it going to happen? Because that's a paycheck. Yeah. You know, I'm trying to tell myself, it will happen. But it will happen, but just it you know, at a later date.
Cool. Interesting one. What's the biggest mistake you've made? We don't have to turn everything off. What's the biggest mistake you've made on a shoot, or near miss? God. That we could all learn from.
Oh man. Yeah.
But you have to choose one. I should have prepped you
like
with that.
My biggest schoolboy error.
Mine was just, I mentioned it in a previous podcast, I had it on a shoot, I had it on S-RAW, not RAW. So it was a small RAW. I don't know why, I didn't even know that existed. And then at the end of the shoot, I was like, shit. But it was all right in the end because they were being professionally retouched and it wasn't to go too big. So, but have you got anything where, because it's just so bloody panicky with cards and things. Even now, I'm like, that's going to die next. Then that one, that needs a new battery.
I can think of two moments that were like when you ingest the cards and you're looking at the content, you're like, oh shit, fuck, like, you know, you're just like, oh my god, eat your hat sort of moment. Yeah. One of them was in New Zealand. I remember doing a shoot for a regatta, and there was like 4 of us all crammed in this little boat, photographers, videographers, and I was doing a lens change. Yeah. And this guy with his big Ocean Pro boots just like stumbling around, and he like kicks my bag with all my lenses and stuff like that. And I was just like, jackass. And so I was just mid lens change, and then the bag goes sliding across. And I was like, oh, thanks. You know, Richard's his name. Yeah. People know
we'll find him. Everyone,
I won't say his last name, but I think people know who I'm talking about when I say Richard. And then I again, the action's happening. I've got to get this lens on. I put it on, start recording. And then that night I get the footage back and there's 2 massive blotches on the lens.
Oh, really?
On the viewfinder,
So
sorry.
On the
inside.
Yeah.
And it's just like, I think with photography, with, you know, editing software and things like that, you can get rid of that stuff.
One image, yeah.
But with video, it was like, I can't do anything. Like I was trying to do masking, and I was just like pulling my hair out, like just a moment where all I needed to has my little, you know, little suction thing, just to take a moment and check the lens, check the viewfinder.
Yeah.
And it would have been
so that's
good.
the thing, like a lesson would be like, which is impossible to learn, but just be like, because you don't know when you've done something stupid, because you go, oh yeah, and then you go back to it, but it's like, oh no, something strange has happened. Right, let's reset from the beginning and check it all over, like just, a checklist.
I think you got to make those mistakes, you know, to really sort of, you know, okay, I won't do that again, or I'll check that again. And yeah, ever since I've been checking my lenses and my viewfinder, no matter the pressure on the shoot or anything, I always, if I do a lens change, I'm like, okay, yeah, cool.
So and that teaches you,
Oh my God, it was a horrendous. I could show you the footage and you'd be like, oh, it's like,
damn it,
gross. That was that moment. And then more recently, I was doing an interview shoot, and I'm the interviewer and I'm the shooter as well. So, you know, I'm doing that thing where you look at your camera and it's next to you. And I just got the settings completely wrong.
What, checking it's running or?
Yeah, just checking the record, checking the audio levels. You got your cans on, so you're listening to the audio as well.
Because if this was your setup, you'd have like monitors, wouldn't you, here? Because I keep looking up like this, but
I think I'd just make sure I could see levels.
Of
levels,
audio.
Yeah, levels of audio. I think audio is king when it comes to video.
So I'm winging it, but I mean this is very good, but I've got no idea. Oh, that's just cut out.
I'm a Sony boy, so I'm running a A7S III, but I've also got the A1, which is more of a photography setup. I don't know why I bought the A1. I really don't. It was like one of those things at the America's Cup. I was sort of like, I really would love to do some photos. I'm going to, you know, just come off a big project. So I had a little bit of money in the bank account. Yeah. It's like, I'll just go and buy an A1. And I kind of wish I hadn't. Wish I'd just gone and bought I wish I'd gone and bought an FX6 or even higher and gone and bought an FX9 so it could be broadcast ready, you know, have kit that was broadcast ready.
Because that's the thing. This isn't necessarily broadcast ready. I think that the R5 you might be able to get up to. Yeah,
you've got to run a whole lot of external stuff. And to be honest, actually, I did it with TNT Sports and Discovery Plus last year, where I ran my A7S III as a live camera. And the broadcast guys were back in London talking to me, saying, you know, and it's cool just holding my camera in my hand with a live pack on, you know, being live on TV. And people were like, you know, it's like, I'm broadcasting. You know, I've got this little A7S III.
Yeah.
All it was just a unit
sports
strapped
camera
on my back.
Kind of
and it was like, okay, I don't need to be fully shoulder rigged with this whopping great 10,000 pound, you know, breaking the bank sort of stuff.
Yeah.
You can achieve it with the smaller cameras.
Did I interrupt you on your second?
My second era. Schoolboy era. So it was an interview shoot. I was, you know, setting my stuff up. I had my camera next to me, and the talent's in front of me, and I'm conducting this interview. And because I'm not monitoring my camera as much, I didn't realize that I got the settings wrong. Basically, I was way too many f-stops up, and the camera was focusing between the background and the subject, and it was auto adjusting like this. And rather than
abstract,
honestly, again, I brought the footage in.
A lava lamp and some smoke effect in the background.
Honestly, it was, you know, just one of those moments where you just have a very humbling moment of like, oh fuck, like, how do I do that? Sorry, I don't swear, but
no. But yeah, I've had that like on like lighting setups and had assistants and been like, right, your job is to just look at that light for half an hour, check it fires every time, because it's a key light that if that's not on, then the shot's ruined. And they're like, yeah, but it's the other flashes bouncing off them. They don't know the difference, and you're like,
oh, a flash happened, right?
Yeah, but not that. But you know, not that bastard. It's
No, but I mean, it was one of those moments where for me it felt like a monumental balls up. And I went to the production manager at the time and said, hey, you know, I'm really sorry this has happened. And again, I think it comes back to that thing, like, don't rip yourself to bits. Like, you know, the production manager has known me a long time.
Yeah.
He's known me since like 2017 when I first worked for him. and this was only a couple of years ago, you know, so even experienced people still make mistakes. And he was like, that's fine, just paint over it. You know, just, you know, so put shots over it.
Yeah.
You know, you only be on the shot for a couple of seconds and establish it and see the interview talent, and then you'll paint again, right?
Yeah.
It's like, yeah.
Cool.
I was like, oh, really? Okay then, don't worry about it. And it's like, yeah,
do it more often.
It's on TV and stuff, and it's like, oh, he's like, don't worry about it. Come on. You know, like
nice.
as long as the answers and the edit's good, you'll be fine. What
do you do to stay creatively inspired? Do you even feel that you need to be like?
No, for sure. And it's I hate to admit this, but it's TikTok.
Yeah.
Like just literally having a scroll on TikTok and just
ideas and things popping up.
Yeah, but you make sure you always try and follow the right people. You know, don't doom scroll and get fed by all this other crap that's on TikTok.
Yeah.
But I make sure that like someone that inspires me at the moment in the action sports world or the action camera world is a guy called Spenny.
Okay.
And he is one of these guys. He's an incredible snowboarder. He's a professional snowboarder anyway, but his handle online is Gimbal God. So he was the sort of OG guy to sort of start recording or chasing people over jumps, big jumps, you know, 40, 50, 70, Bloody 80 foot plus jumps, but with a camera like what we're recording on today on a gimbal. Yeah. You know, and that sort of skill set, you know, he developed early on. He developed a very good name for himself. And then with the rise of GoPro, you know, GoPro, I hope they pay him a lot of money because he sold a lot of GoPro cameras to the kids, all trying to replicate what he's doing.
Yeah, yeah.
So watching stuff like, you know, what he produces, is it Kyla Holland? There's another cool YouTube channel. Watching a few of these like travel bloggers that shoot really beautiful stuff. Yeah, I think...
Okay, so it's kind of the media that...
Just sort of seeing what's
out there. A careful
there.
feed of stuff so you're not just getting lost in it.
There's I'll tell you what, there's some pretty cool stuff being made by Rafa. Rafa's a really cool company.
Oh, okay.
I really like watching the Rafa films, the cycling stuff.
Yeah, I was going to say cycling, yeah.
I don't know if it's...
I
don't know if it's a 40-year-old thing, but I've recently just bought a bike as well, and I'm sort of like... Just bought my first.
Yeah, I've got a couple of tops that go from like with my road bike. The stripe across the sides, like.
Yeah, exactly. But they make really cool videos. Cool videos that really you feel like. Oh, I think that turned off.
Cool.
Just following, you know, companies like that sort of make really glitzy, nice films. Arc'teryx is another one.
Okay.
I really like that company.
So for someone starting out and they want to shoot for a company like that, they just message them, email them, send them some pictures, or how would you?
To be honest, I've been that guy and I've done that, and 9 times out of 10 it hasn't worked.
Okay.
And again, it's not. Don't get yourself down. Like, you know, 9 times out of 10, what you're producing is more than good enough for these companies.
They're just swamped, right? So it's like...
Yeah, but I mean, worldwide, it's like I'm not the only one sending emails to these guys.
Yeah.
Like, you know, it probably just gets into an inbox and it just gets buried, or it doesn't even make the inbox. Is the truth of the matter. Because
then it's like, so if you had no connections now, how would you get work? And then for me, I kind of left everything in London, and that seemed to be, as long as I was in London, I could just keep shooting what I want, stick it in my portfolio, and then try and get meetings with people and take it around. That was the way I kind of got work. And then now it's similar to trying to email someone your portfolio or get a meeting, but you follow companies or people on social media, TikTok, Instagram, and then you try and message them. But it's again, psychology. How do you deal with just trying to get that first work? Because somebody starting off they're not sailing, they're not windsurfing like you were in the beginning, and they might not even be in London, and they might be like not in a city. I would
say
hard.
Like it's, you know, I'm going through a bit of a process of trying to bring in people in the fitness world and brands in the fitness world. With Hyrox, you know, blowing up, you all of a sudden got these nutrition companies that are getting massive because they've got guys in the pro leagues, you know, the E15, that are all stamped with like ESN all over them and stuff like that. So they're ultimately needing more content produced. And so I recently saw, actually, you know, I don't think it's a case of cold calling or emailing. You've got to actually show these companies what you can do for them straight away. And so, you know, through guys that we know, like Polly, Gracie, you know, because I find it challenging shooting in a gym environment. I've been working on my skills in a dimly lit, quite fast
Yeah,
paced
I've seen some of your stuff. It's really nice. Yeah,
and so using that as like a
keep testing yourself. Yeah.
And so for someone like Polly, she loves that someone can come in and film and offer her content as a trainer. Mm-hmm. And I'm using that same stuff to try and attract the brands that maybe she was wearing at the time, like on her active.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it hasn't quite worked because we've had spam emails or fake emails approaching.
Oh, really?
It's happened a couple of times. I mean,
if you pay,
but hopefully the real brand will ultimately turn up one day. Like Honor will get in touch with Polly and say, "Hey, we want to actually back you." And then But I think in that sense, it'd be really cool. And Polly, she's an awesome person. So.
It's really lifted up her social media profile. I think it's really slick, and it's like what you should have, standard you should have as a personal trainer or into the fitness world, which almost leads us on to the next question, which is, what technically is a must that you need to know, or like kind of what skill do you think you need to have to become a professional photographer, videographer? So for me, it was lighting. So very early on after my degree, I just avoided it, and I did like paid shoots where I just went on natural light and was too scared of it, and then had a little on camera flash, and then built up to like a separate softbox and stuff. So understanding lighting, getting it wrong, what works, what doesn't, diffusers, the dappled effect inside an umbrella and snoots and all of this. That was a key thing. So my advice would be learn lighting, pick up some cheap kit, but might be different. What would you recommend that you kind of need to know, or a skill? Or
I would say this, I guess for me, because I've got a few strings in my bow as far as being an editor, being a shooter as well, and being a producer. I think if I was to just go back as what would I say to editors, people that want to be editors, I think it's just understanding storytelling, understanding the company you're working for, the person you're working for, what's their story and how they like it being told. Because how you tell stories as an editor isn't necessarily how the company that you're working for wants to tell them as well.
Because you could, if as a junior editor starting off, you could look at a brand and be like, write a script or a story and say, this is how I would tell your story. You could try and get work that way. But knowing how to tell a story. I
think from a technical sense, if you're just speaking technically, I think just getting your edit time in early on, just going in and editing non-stop for, and don't worry if it takes you a few hours. Don't worry if it takes you like a day or half a day early on to do these things. You will get quicker.
Yeah.
You always get quicker.
Shortcuts and like things. I'm always learning shortcuts, even recently, just in Premiere Pro, just to trim stuff so you don't have to look away down at your keys.
Sure, yeah. But I think the cool thing, and I've noticed this recently actually, lately in my career, because I was an editor first and foremost, when I pick the camera up and I start shooting, I shoot as an editor.
Yeah.
So I shoot for my timeline.
I remember seeing you at that event at Hive. Yeah, you were saying, I'm shooting it for the edit. Yeah.
For the timeline. I can already see my shots on the timeline. So when you come to Premiere Pro, also I think, and I learnt this when I've done photography, is to not spray and pray. Just like spray the shit, just like, and then it's like, oh my God, I've got 1,000 images to go through. And it's like, it's the same for video, maybe in a smaller sense, but when you get into Premiere Pro, you're not looking through hundreds of clips. And a lot of people are just editing on laptops now. Maybe they've got a second screen. It's still small. Really, what does that clip look like? But you don't want to be going through hundreds of clips. So just shoot for your edit. Don't shoot everything. Don't just roll hot on it as well.
Yeah. Okay. I'm just going to start and stop that one because it's. Do you think what you were like as a kid affects your professional career? Which is just trying to delve a little bit into psychology and just seeing what you were like as a kid and what things that made you unhappy. So kind of touched on it earlier. So for me, it's like you can't have everything.
No.
And it's a learning. So it's similar to what's it taught you about your life. But is there any way you still remember yourself as a kid and how you live parts of that life now? Maybe just in your normal life. It doesn't have to be with your career. But do you ever try and keep that connection to your childlike self or think about it? Or
I mean, I've always been a super competitive guy. I played a lot of sports when I was younger. I played cricket. I played what we called it soccer in New Zealand, but football for a number of years. You know, I was in county squads and things like that. I did BMX from a very young age, and then I started yacht racing in Optimist all the way up to, you know, big 6-meter sport boats. Yeah. So I've always had a bit of a competitive streak about me, and I've always sort of had this sort of thing about, I guess it's a competitive thing with myself. Like I'm only as good as my last job, and I always want to perform quite well.
Can be dangerous as well.
It can be.
Because you're pushing,
as long as I think you manage that and don't beat yourself up when it doesn't quite, like I said, when those balls ups happened. Like it doesn't ruin your whole career.
Yeah, you're still alive.
You're still good at what you do. Yeah. It's just don't let one small. Like everyone makes mistakes. God, even the pros make mistakes. Yeah. Even the guys that are constantly shooting with Red Bull on the front covers and things like that. Everyone still makes mistakes. Yeah, you know, we're only human. But I would say that competitiveness as a kid has driven me professionally as well. And it's certainly when I look at myself versus other shooters that I know, it's funny. I always think there's, you know, I've got a lot of friends in the industry that, you know, we do the same job, and ultimately it's like, oh, it's me versus them, isn't it? It's me versus you guys out there. Yeah. You know, and it's like, oh, you got that job, but I got that job. And it's I don't know. It's like you can sort of like, I try not to get too far down the well when it comes to that. Yeah, because
it never ends. You're like,
well, it's the grass is greener, right? They might have a few more gigs than you, but they're looking at you on one side. And I've had that a few times. Like people said, yeah, but you work for the America's Cup, and it's like, yeah, true, but you have worked for them and you keep doing that stuff, and it's like, yeah. I would say that competitiveness in me will always be a driving thing for me personally and professionally.
It's a skill, that you got,
Yeah, and I think it's just I think it's healthy to be competitive, but I'm trying to be competitive with myself and not other people. I'm trying to be, you know, the only person I have to impress is myself. Yeah. You know, and obviously the client, make sure the client's happy with your work. Okay. But yeah, it's I don't get too bent out of shape if one of my colleagues doesn't like what I've produced. Yeah. So.
Cool. So what is the difference between a good photographer or videographer and a world-class photographer, videographer? Because that, for me, like, I remember, like, 15 years ago, or whatever, I was like, shit, I'm not going to be as good as Stanley Kubrick. I'm not going to be, like, a world-class director. And it crushed me, but then it's a psychology thing again. But anyway, what do you think is the difference between average and then world class, or is it just the breaks? Or because I, like you say about your colleagues and stuff, you're like, he got that job, I got this job, even in like jokingly. But I see, and I used to be quite bitter in London, be like, of course his dad's rich and he's helping set this magazine up, and now it's like trying to position yourself healthily without going out of control. But how do you become Helmut Newton, Annie Leibowitz, or Stanley Kubrick, or whoever it is, you know, or Martin Scorsese, or what is it? What are we all chasing? What is the drive? Are we trying to be these amazing people, or is it? Can we bring it back down to earth and just say it's the love of creating images, or it's just trying to?
I think from the guys that I've worked with, the ones that I honestly hold to a very high standard in the industry I'm working in, I do still think they're quite humble at the same time, and that they never get bigger than them. You know, even though they're an awesome shooter, they are still quite humble at the same time. Yeah. Like ultimately, you know, the 17-18 ocean race, I keep going back to it, but how the OBRs flew drones during that race, you'll never see footage like that. You know, I still think footage hasn't come out, you know, that still looks as good as that. Okay. You know, I'm talking boats doing 35 knots in the Southern Ocean, plowing through waves, you know, through these huge seas, not foiling, but just, I can imagine on board, and as a drone pilot, I know what it's like when you're glued to your remote.
Because as a drone pilot, he's on board then, isn't he? Yeah,
and you can look at some of the footage on YouTube, how they launch and recover these drones. But the guys that I think, like, I mean, one guy that, you know, I know quite well is Sam Greenfield. He got some of the best shots on Brunel. But it was cool watching the OBRs have a little competition with themselves, and they'd go off and do the leg, and they'd come in and they'd be like, "Oh, you got that shot? Oh, no way!" And like James Blake, he did this really cool shot with Axonobel where he sort of flew it out from hundreds of meters away and just intercepted the bow.
Oh, nice!
Really close by, because again, they're not using zooms on these drones. They're using
physical zoom.
What you see is what you. But those guys, like, some of those guys are incredible. Jan Ryu, I think, is arguably one of the best drone pilots in the world. I think he's changed how people fly drones with boats, and how we look at things. But again, you talk to him about it, and he's just a pretty humble French guy,
Yeah. Really, so staying humble,
I think just what separates them is, I reckon, I don't know, when I look at someone like Jan, he probably hasn't been too afraid to try stuff. He hasn't been afraid to launch his drone when it's been pretty adverse conditions. I shit
myself every time.
He's probably lost a few, but I reckon just backing yourself to launch the drone in bad conditions. Because ultimately, once the drone's up, it's fine. But it's bringing it back and having the confidence to bring it back again.
But I mean, they're pretty chunky drones as well, because
they got smaller now. Yeah.
Mine's the Mavic 2 Pro. I mean, it's like 20 knots is pretty much its limit. It's banked and it's hanging on for you, but it's trying to stay stable. But
the Mavic 4 because I had the Mavic 2, I didn't go for the 3, and then I got the 4, so that was been a massive jump up, and technically, physically as well, it's a bigger drone.
Has it got because it does the vertical and the horizontal? It's not that was the 3.
Yeah, so
it was a bit gimmicky on the 3.
The gimbal can rotate, and it can basically shoot for social media. But those drones can handle a lot more wind now. I recently flew it for the ocean race Europe in probably about 35 knots. When Team Amala were coming into, where was it? French port. I can't remember. Sorry, mind blank. But I remember launching the drone from behind a screen, and just flying it out, and it did fine. It didn't look like it was sort of sitting on a bank like that, but it still flew around in 35 knots. Yeah, it was still fine.
Nice.
I think it's just having that confidence in yourself, backing your skill set, and just knowing how to deal with the situation. I think that's actually ultimately what separates a world-class shooter, especially in a world like yacht racing. And just understanding the environment that you're in. Because you might trash your gear one day, or you might lose a camera or drown it, and then it's like, oh God, now I've got to pay. So
pushing yourself a little bit and to develop and evolve and
but not being scared of the situation as well. I've had a few moments, been in ribs where we've been shooting in pretty adverse conditions, and like in New Zealand in the Hauraki Gulf, can churn up a pretty nasty sea state, but just backing yourself and looking after your gear, and ultimately you're going to have, especially if you're shooting off speed, if you're shooting in 50 frames to bring it back to 25p, you're going to have a shot in there somewhere. Right before you got to throw your camera above your head and you get droused by water and the camera's up here. Speaking from personal experience.
Cool. I think this is the last one. So is there one message you would give to your younger self, younger photographer self, videographer self, something you've learned now that you would help, like that typical speak to your younger self for advice?
I think if I was to speak to my younger self getting into video, is just know your worth. Know your value that you bring to shoots, to clients, you know. And I think it's one of those things that it's funny because I remember a guy very early on in my career, a guy called Swashy. Would go and do live events on the World Match Racing Tour, and I remember him sitting down with his legs crossed, he's got a cigarette in one hand, glass of rosé in the other, and he says, "What it is, Westy, you've got to earn your stripes around here." I was like, at the time I didn't really listen to it, but I was like, later on in my career I was like, actually you do have to earn your stripes. So earn your stripes and then know my value. Once you've earned your stripes, you do have to do the jobs at a cheaper rate. You might be working on gigs with guys that are paid double you, but they're there because they've earned their stripes. So I think it's earn your stripes and then just back yourself, back your value would be what I'd tell my younger self.
Perfect. I lied, there's one more. If someone listens to this and takes one action tomorrow, what should it be? What's the one takeaway from what we've chatted about would we say is the best piece of advice?
Just keep shooting for yourself, keep enjoying it. Keep making edits for yourself, even if it doesn't go out on social media. Just make. I've had a couple of edits that I've just done for myself. With footage that I had stock, and then I didn't post them. I didn't want to. It just was fun to make them. Try different transitions. Try different things, and just enjoy it. Just keep enjoying it. I think the day you stop enjoying what we're doing is probably the day you need to look at it, retiring or doing a different career.
Excellent. Thanks for coming on to Pro Talk.
Pleasure. Thanks, Vince.
Nice one.